It was March 5, 1966, when BOAC Flight 911, operated by the British Airline, took off from Haneda Airport in Tokyo. The day was perfect. No trace of clouds, no signs of bad weather. The passengers, relaxed, looked out their windows at the imposing silhouette of Mount Fuji, unaware that they were just minutes away from a tragedy. This flight was not simply a connection between Japan and Hong Kong. It was part of an extensive international route linking the United Kingdom with Southeast Asia, at a time when non-stop transcontinental journeys were still unfeasible due to technical and economic limitations. The full route of the flight began in London at Heathrow Airport. From there, a Boeing 707 departed for Montreal, Canada, on its first stop. It then crossed the American continent to reach San Francisco, and from there continued on to Hawaii. The second-to-last stop was Tokyo, from where it finally headed to Hong Kong, making the journey a true odyssey that took several days, with multiple stops for refueling, technical inspections, and boarding new passengers. On that March 5th, the final leg of the itinerary would take the aircraft from the Japanese capital to what was then the British colony in southern China. The estimated flight time was about 5 hours. The designated aircraft was a Boeing 707-436, registration GAPFE, equipped with 4 Rolls-Royce Conway engines. This aircraft was part of the first generation of commercial jets and had transformed international aviation with its range and speed. BOAC, the operating airline, was the United Kingdom's main international carrier from 1939 until its merger with British European Airways in 1974, at which point British Airways was born. On board Flight 911 were 124 people, including 113 passengers. Among them was a sizable group of employees and family members from the Thermo King Corporation, based in Minnesota, who were enjoying a corporate reward trip. The cockpit was commanded by Eric W. Dobson, a 45-year-old pilot with extensive international experience and over 14,000 flight hours, including more than 2,000 on the Boeing 707. He was accompanied by First Officer Edward Maloney, Second Officer Terrence Sanderson, and Flight Engineer Ian Carter, all of whom had years of experience in commercial aviation. Completing the crew were 7 flight attendants responsible for onboard service. Shortly before 2 p.m., the aircraft began taxiing down the runway at Haneda Airport. As they moved toward takeoff, some passengers noticed the charred remains of another plane, a Canadian Pacific DC-8, which had crashed the previous day during a failed landing, resulting in over 60 fatalities. Japan was experiencing a dark chapter in its aviation history. 3 serious accidents in less than a month in the Tokyo region, including All Nippon Airways Flight 60, which had crashed into the nearby bay just days earlier. Flight 911's takeoff was uneventful. After liftoff, the original plan was to turn south and head directly toward Hong Kong. However, given the excellent visibility and the captain's desire to offer passengers an unforgettable view of Mount Fuji, he requested a slight deviation to approach the volcano visually. The control tower approved the request. No one could have foreseen that this small change would mark the beginning of an air tragedy. As the plane gained altitude, one of the passengers was capturing scenes of the landscape in flight with an 8mm camera. The aircraft reached 17,000 feet, and everything in the cockpit was proceeding normally. Captain Dobson initiated a slight descent in order to give the passengers a better view of the eastern slope of Mount Fuji. The majestic volcano, clearly visible under the clear sky, appeared harmless. But that serene image concealed an invisible and devastating phenomenon. A powerful atmospheric wave, triggered by intense winds sweeping across the summit of Fuji. Without warning, the plane entered a zone of extreme turbulence, in broad daylight and with no visible signs in the air. From the ground in the surroundings of the city of Gotemba, multiple witnesses watched the scene unfold in horror. A commercial airplane spinning out of control, shedding parts, releasing smoke, falling like a leaf dragged by the wind. Some managed to capture images with their cameras. Bodies, suitcases, seat fragments, and panels were seen breaking off as the fuselage fractured. The plane spiraled downward, rapidly losing altitude. Entire sections of the wing and the front of the cabin separated from the rest. The wreckage was scattered across an area of more than 16 kilometers, with the final impact occurring in a wooded area on the slope of Mount Fuji. In less than 3 minutes from the onset of the turbulence, Flight 911 ceased to exist. There were no survivors. The commission tasked with investigating the incident included Japanese authorities, UK technicians, Boeing engineers, and FAA experts. The scene was devastating. No trace of life remained, and the wreckage was scattered in a pattern that confirmed an in-flight structural breakup. The main obstacle was the lack of data. The flight data recorder, FDR, of the 707 had been installed in the front section of the aircraft and was destroyed by fire. Additionally, the aircraft was not equipped with a cockpit voice recorder, CVR, as its installation was not yet mandatory at the time. Faced with a scarcity of direct information, investigators turned to alternative methods. One of the most revealing was the frame-by-frame analysis of the 8mm film recovered from the wreckage. It precisely revealed the moment when the structural overload occurred. The analysis confirmed that the aircraft was subjected to forces beyond what its design could withstand. A mountain wave, an extremely turbulent airflow formation that develops on the leeward side of a mountainous elevation, was identified as the cause. A U.S. military aircraft, an A-4 Skyhawk, which was patrolling near Mount Fuji on the same day, passed through the same turbulent zone. Its pilot reported experiencing forces between -4G and +9G, managing to regain control just in time. This testimony was crucial in confirming the violent nature of the phenomenon. Furthermore, wind tunnel simulations using scale models determined that mountain waves generated by Mount Fuji could reach altitudes of up to 16,000 feet and extend more than 20 kilometers. Flight 911, during its visual detour toward the volcano, likely entered one of these zones unknowingly. During the subsequent analysis, fatigue cracks were found in the rear part of the airplane. However, experts determined that these fractures were not related to the main disintegration. The aircraft was, in general, in adequate condition. The cause of the tragedy was a combination of unforeseen extreme turbulence and a design incapable of withstanding those vertical forces. Legally, it was determined that the event was an act of nature, what is technically known as an act of God. The final report issued by the Japanese authorities confirmed the essentials. The flight was destroyed in mid-air due to severe turbulence in an apparently calm atmosphere. There were no technical failures or procedural errors. The tragedy was simply attributed to an unexpected natural phenomenon. However, the document surprised many for its lack of depth. It did not include specific recommendations for prevention. It did not suggest avoiding routes near Mount Fuji on windy days, nor installing equipment capable of detecting invisible turbulence. It also did not recommend reinforcing aircraft structures to withstand this type of vertical forces. The case was closed without concrete operational demands, which aroused suspicion and left a feeling of discomfort in certain sectors of aviation. Although there is no conclusive evidence of conspiracy, there are aspects of the accident that continue to generate concern or curiosity. One of the most discussed elements is the timing coincidence. 4 air accidents in Japan in less than a month, 3 of them involving commercial flights in the Tokyo region. Simple statistical chance, or a reflection of a time with deeper structural failures? Another fact that has generated speculation is the group of 75 employees from the same American company, Thermo King Corporation, who were traveling together as part of a corporate trip. An uncommon concentration of workers on a single commercial flight, which has fueled theories without concrete basis about possible economic or strategic interests at play. Also mentioned is the film footage recorded inside the plane, an 8mm tape recovered from the wreckage that was never publicly released. Officially, it was treated as technical evidence, but the exact content of the images remains a mystery to this day. Just chaos and darkness, or something more?